Hello, this is Pablo with Meditation Amsterdam. And after a hiatus of almost 1 month, I am back with making videos yet again. So I hope everybody had a great holiday period and a good start of 2025. Today, I have a very special video in store for you guys, which has to do with getting what we want, as a matter of fact. Now, whether you are new to the channel or have been following me for a while, you know that when I say getting what you want, I do not mean manifesting things out of thin air with no effort. If that's the kind of thing that you're expecting, then this is not only not the video for you, but also not the channel for you. And in fact, this is not really the world for you, because you are not going to be able to do that. But we are here talking about something much more fundamental and also much more interesting. And I called the video "Treat Reality Like a Pistachio to Get What You Want," because the idea for this video was born out of a little episode that I had while trying to eat a pistachio. That's the one that you can see here. So I'll tell you the story of what happened, and we'll dive into what this means for self-cultivation and skillfully dealing with desire to get what we want. So what happened was I bought some pistachios, which I think is my favorite type of nuts. And I accidentally opened one, and I only threw half the husk away. So I put the other half of the husk and the little kernel in my mouth, and I chewed once. Of course, it only took me once to notice that I had made a terrible pistachio 101 mistake. And at that point, my first thought was, maybe I can remove all the little pieces of husk and be left with the kernel alone. But that was not possible anymore. I had chewed it so thoroughly that first time around that the husk was split into tons of little pieces, and I had no option but to just spit the entire thing out. Now, what does this have to do with desire? Well, the analogy here is that when our mind is not cultivated and we are not familiar with skillful means on how to navigate the wants and desires that come up, that's the equivalent of chewing into a pistachio with the husk. So I'll take an example, right? So say people who are desperately going around looking for a relationship. Now, they're looking around and they'll be looking for a partner to solve their problem, essentially, right? They want a partner. And that would be the whole pistachio, including the husk. And the pistachio with the husk in this instance exemplifies or represents the object of desire. It is an object in the external world. It might be a person, a circumstance, or an event. And in this particular example is a person, right? And now, so we'll go out there and, if we do things right or things happen for us, we'll get a partner and we'll have a relationship. And now we have acquired the pistachio and the husk. And we'll start to chew on it, only to very quickly find out that the object of our desire, that which promised to give us the happiness that we were seeking, is full of things that we did not anticipate. It is a mixture of good and bad things, which it applies to every person and every circumstance. And this is inevitable because in the objective world, every object is a mixture of good and bad things. And even if it is only good, when circumstances change, those attributes that seem to be good now become very inconvenient, for example. I made a video about this quite a while ago with the example of how the perfect cup of coffee, which I usually buy at airports, becomes the unhandiest thing in the world once you're in the plane, right? So same cup of coffee, different circumstance, becomes something you really don't want. because now you have to be holding it. There's danger of spilling and the rest of that. So whether the inherent attributes of the object of your desire make it in actuality a mix of good and bad things, or whether it's down to, oh, there goes my pistachio, whether it is down to circumstances changing and then that which you used to desire now becoming very unhandy to have, that is the reality, or that is the inherent quality of objective reality. Now, the untrained mind has no choice but to project its wants and desires into the future and towards the outside world, towards external circumstance. That's the untrained mind or the uncultivated mind. And the way to do this differently, the skillful means, in order to then be able to refine the mind, to be able to open up the pistachio, leave the husk aside, and get only the kernel proper, requires a little bit of training and a little bit of understanding, which is the part that I'm going to share here. So it goes like this. Say that I'm feeling lonely and I project the solution of that loneliness into a partner that I want to acquire. I want a relationship. Now, what I want to do in order to do this skillfully is to turn the attention away from the object of desire and onto that which triggered the desire in the first place, right? So the mind will simply go, oh, I want a partner in the future. What do I need to do to get one? And skillful means would say, well, hold on a second. That might be great from an emotional and practical perspective, but what is it that is triggering that longing? I want to turn my attention inward and go, from where does that desire arise? And with a little bit of exploration, then we would come up with a little bit of a more introspective story, such as, well, I want companionship. And then you could ask, well, why do you want companionship? Or why do I want companionship? And then you would say, well, I want it so that I feel accepted, right? And why do you want to feel accepted? And then you would say, if you do enough introspection, and this is not just verbal answers that you want to find the kernel of need and lack inside of yourself. Say, well, I want companionship and acceptance because that would give me a gateway to feel love. Yeah. So now you've kind of reached bedrock. That is what you want to get. You want to get the feeling of love, in essence, right? That's the essence of what you want to get. That is, referring once again to the pistachio, the kernel of what you want to get. Now, the mind has no option but to try to acquire that from another and from a future circumstance and from something in the objective world. But because we are now using skillful means, we turn our attention inward. We discovered that we want the flavor of love called acceptance, right? Or we want to feel love through the vehicle of acceptance. And the fact that we are looking for it necessarily implies that we don't feel it. We feel, in fact, subconsciously, a lack of love in the flavor of acceptance. Love can have many flavors. In this case, we are talking about one, but there could be others, right? It could be appreciation. It could be all manner of things. Now, having discovered this gives us great insight into, that means that my desire for companionship and in turn a desire for a partner is coming from a sense of lack of love in the flavor of acceptance that I had not clarified for myself. And see, the thinking mind wants to go out and acquire an object, and it doesn't know that by doing that, we are essentially outsourcing the provision of that love and that acceptance to a middleman or a middle situation that we want to put it in nasty terms, use to extract that love and acceptance out of. And when we project that object of desire, we don't know that we're about to start munching on a whole pistachio with husk and the rest of it, right? And we'll be disenchanted pretty soon. So not only do we start to create middlemen or middle circumstances to acquire that which we feel we lack, but we can't see that those middlemen or those circumstances will deliver us a mixture of good and bad, and probably not deliver on the true kernel of what we're looking for. Now, looking inward and realizing and coming to terms with the sense of lack of love in the flavor of acceptance that we feel inside is painful. That is a painful affect. But here is the dialectic that the mind in its linearity tends not to understand, which is that love in the flavor of acceptance is, you could see it as a frequency. And this is not to get into like, oh, it's all frequency, man, it's all vibration. Well, yeah, sure, but using the model of a frequency is helpful, because when you feel a lack of love in the flavor of acceptance, what you are feeling is the trough of the wave. And when you feel the peak is when you actually do feel the love and acceptance within. Yeah. And the reason to feel the lack is because you want to tap into the wave called acceptance. And you want to tap into the wave regardless of whether you're tapping into the peak or the trough of the wave. The important thing is to tap into the frequency of acceptance. Now, it just so happens that when you don't have it, when you feel a lack, you are tapping into the trough of the wave. But don't let that part discourage you, because if you tap into the trough, you've tapped into the wave of acceptance nonetheless. The mind doesn't understand this. And acceptance is a wave in that sense. Sometimes you feel it and sometimes you won't, but to tap into the wave of acceptance is what you want, so that you can ride that wave, whether it's the trough or the peak. Now, if you tap into the trough of the wave called acceptance, in this case, the lack of feeling acceptance, by the very tapping into the wave, tapping into the trough will take you to the peak, inevitably, right? So now you have tapped into that frequency, you know how to ride it, you know how to process or metabolize the feeling of lack of acceptance, and you know how to enjoy the peak called feeling love in the flavor of acceptance. So to the mind, this is not what we want, because we want only the peak. Or as someone asked me the other day, all this meditation of yours, do you mean that you know how to be happy? Right? And my answer was, I know how to be happy and unhappy, so that I learn how to ride now the wave called happiness in its peaks and troughs. And that is skillful, right? That is how to get what you want, is you want to be independent of seeking the peak of acceptance, and rather learning how to ride the wave. What's interesting about riding the wave in a skillful way is that if you ride it exactly as it is, it stops feeling like an up and down, because you are so close to it, it feels like it's flat. In other words, if you are riding the wave exactly as it is at all times, by the very fact that you are writing it exactly as it is, you have completely harmonized with it, so it would feel a lot smoother than all these nasty ups and downs that we go through when we only want to be in the peak of the wave. So the skillful means to getting what you want, to feeling in harmony with the peaks and troughs of love and in the flavor of acceptance in this example, is the kernel of the pistachio that we are actually looking for. And it prevents you from projecting an object of desire that you may or may not get. It prevents you from, if you are semi-lucky, getting that object of desire, only to be chewing on a pistachio all with the husk, and realizing that the object of desire was a mixture of good and bad things, or becoming disenchanted and missing out on the real kernel of peace and joy that you want by being able to navigate the ups and downs, and using the sense of lack as a way to enter whatever wave it is that you want to learn how to surf, in essence, right? So you want to treat reality as a pistachio, in the sense that you want to refine your mind to be able to do away with the object of desire and tap into the essence of what it is that you are looking for, and to tap into that essence by entering into harmony with the lack that you feel for that essence, so that you are much more in touch with the fountain of with the internal fountain of that essence that you hold inside. It's the essence of the message, right? So that is today's video, first video of the year. On a small side note, thanks for everybody who reached out via email saying that they missed my videos. That was very motivating. And I just wanted to take a proper break. And there was a lot of good openings and processing that took place during the holidays. It was a process that I did not want to interrupt. And but I'm back with videos. I have a bunch of ideas about some others that I want to make in the coming days. I don't promise a video per day. I don't want to keep any particular kind of frequency. Sorry about that. I know YouTube rewards it. I know, you know, some people do love to see these coming up every day, but it's just not in the cards. I can't deliver the kind of quality and be motivated to do it properly if I start to force myself. So it's just what it is. I'll put whatever stuff I feel is worth sharing with you guys. Thanks for listening thus far, if you have. And as usual, I'm very curious to what you make of today's video. And if you think that the content is worth liking, sharing, and subscribing, and it might benefit others, then do so. And I'll be back with more pretty soon. Cheerio, and bye-bye.